All right, I want to call to order the second interim meeting of the Joint Committee on Economic Development and Workforce Investment. I want to welcome members here today and the guests and presenters that we have. At this time, Sasha, I'd like you to please call the roll.
Senator Gardler, Senator Carr, Senator McDaniel, Senator Mills, Senator Southworth,
Here.
Senator Storm, here. Senator Thomas, Senator Wheeler, Senator Wilson, Senator Yates, Representative Baker, Representative Banta,
Here.
Representative Beckler,
Here.
Representative Bojanowski, Representative Bray,
Present.
Representative Brown, Representative Callaway,
Present.
Representative Cantrell, Representative Elliott,
Here.
Representative Freeland,
Here.
Representative Gentry,
Here.
Representative Hart, Representative Huff,
Here.
Representative Johnson,
Here.
Representative King,
Present.
Representative Kulkarni,
Present.
Representative Lawrence,
Present.
Representative Lockett, Representative Rowland, Representative Sharp,
Present.
Representative Sheldon, Representative Tackett Lafferty, Representative Truitt,
Present.
Co-Chair Schroeder, Co-Chair Weber.
Present. We do have a quorum and are duly constituted to conduct business today. At this time, I'd like a motion and a second for the approval of the June minutes. Representative Elliott, motion. Senator Schroeder, second. All those in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. The minutes are approved. Very good. Before we get into our presentation today, I would like to recognize a guest here. We have the new senator from the 10th District, Senator Matt Dineen from Elizabethtown. He'll be taking office in January, representing Hardin County. So he and I will have some of the area to represent it, as well as Representative Callaway, and I'm trying to see no one else here from Hardin County. So we want to welcome you, Matt, today to the Economic Development Committee meeting. At this time, we're going to hear a discussion on the apprenticeship program. It's an area that I've had an interest in the past, and I think it's an area that this committee has shown interest in, and we're always interested in updates on that. And I've asked folks to come here today and to give us an update. At this time, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself for the record, and after you've done that, you can begin the presentation.
Dr. Kish Kumi Price.
Good morning. I'm Michelle DeJean. I'm the Executive Director of the Office of Employer and Apprenticeship Services.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Good morning, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are happy to be here with you all and to share some information about our department. So, as many of you know, we are now the Department of Workforce Development, and we are housed in the Education and Labor Cabinet. Within our department, we have the Office of Employer and Apprenticeship Services, we have the Office of Adult Education, the Office of the Kentucky Workforce Innovation Board, the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation, and we also have the Division of Technical Assistance. And with all of these agencies, one of the most important ones that we are interested in growing and providing some support is with the Office of Employer and Apprenticeship Services. And so we have our executive director here to share some more information about that program.
Thank you, Dr. Price, and thank you again, everyone on the committee. I'm excited to be here today to give you an update. I'm extremely passionate and proud of the Office of Employer and Apprenticeship Services. We're a small but mighty dynamic team. Let me give everyone a brief overview of what is registered apprenticeship. Registered apprenticeship is a talent development strategy, a workforce solution for employers who are having workforce pain points. If you take classroom instruction or related technical instruction and you pair it with on-the-job training with a wage progression. It will lead to a skilled, certified workforce. And there are numerous benefits to registered apprenticeship. It's all employer-driven, brings alignment between education and workforce development, and it is a solution for employers to address recruitment, retention, recruitment, training, and retention. Kentucky Registered Apprenticeship involves a diverse range of industries. Here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, we have apprenticeship programs in a multitude of industries. It has grown and expanded from the skilled trades and construction to healthcare to IT, manufacturing to the hospitality industry. We have apprenticeship programs in all of the industries, and all of our apprenticeship programs are posted on the Cabinet for Education and Labor website. We are currently funding registered apprenticeship with 2 federal grants and state general funds. As you can see from this bar graph, almost 45% of the program is supported through federal funding with as general funds from this general fund budget. Let me give you a statistical snapshot. Here are just some numbers of where registered apprenticeship was as of June 30th or July 7th is when we collect this information. Every registered apprenticeship program is dedicated to a specific occupation, and many employers have multiple programs. So we have 623 programs in the Commonwealth with 359 unique sponsors covering 216 occupations. We are trending at an average of 4,000 apprentices, and we're always advocating to reach minorities, women, and veterans. We had a successful year last year, even through the pandemic, with 604 completions. So these are 604 individuals who completed their registered apprenticeship program who are working in Kentucky. Here are new registered apprenticeship programs in this calendar year of 2022. As of January through June, we've added 25 programs from career development technicians to maintenance repair. And I highlighted, or I wanted to bold, the early childhood administrator director credential. As a state apprenticeship approving agency of the United States Department of Labor, in Kentucky as a SAA, if we can't find a work process or a work plan to meet the employer's specific workforce needs, Kentucky can work with the industry and develop and design a registered apprenticeship program. The Office of Employer and Apprenticeship Services worked with the Governor's Office of Early Childhood, and Angela Rogers was key in helping us develop and design the Early Childhood Administrator Director's credential. And we have several early childhood or child care facilities who have embraced this transitional change in their programs and are working with their staff on an Early Childhood Administrator Director. Here's the additional of the new programs, computer support specialists. We are also in the nursing fields as well as growing and expanding. Top registered apprenticeship enrollments. This is where a registered apprenticeship is just booming, and these are our registered apprenticeship sponsors who have apprentices in over the hundreds. So I wanted to show you that Trilogy Health Services, Louisville Electric, Davis H. Elliott is our line erector, one of our leading registered apprenticeship programs, plumbers and pipe fitters. So these are the top. I couldn't give you all 600 programs because we didn't want this to be death by PowerPoint. So, all right. I'm trying to think interesting ones. So just I wanted to show you how we're growing and expanding. One of the initiatives or expansions or program development we've done, we now produce and publish on the Cabinet website a logistical map of where registered apprenticeship is in in Kentucky. If you follow this link, or if you go to the Cabinet's website and you mouse over one of the little dots, where is a registered apprenticeship program, it'll give all of the information about the program, on what the program is, who is the contact, how many hours, the wage, and this is where registered apprenticeship is continually growing and expanding. I'm using this to help provide outreach and education on we're using it to provide outreach and education on registered apprenticeship. Employment outcomes in Kentucky 1 year out for apprenticeship programs. The Kentucky Center for Statistics is helping us monitor and track the completions and successful data of registered apprenticeship. As you can see, we've since 2007, the number of completions have continually increased, and those folks are employed. And here's the mean and the median wage for the completions of registered apprenticeship. I also have for you, and I brought for visual display, the certificates and credentials that we provide employers. So if an employer registers has a registered apprenticeship program, they are recognized the business is recognized as a employer of choice, and the apprentice, after completion of their registered apprenticeship program, is issued this credential, which is kept in a national data system to validate and verify that that apprentice is skilled in that occupation. Registered apprenticeship expansion initiatives. What are we doing in the Cabinet for Education and Labor for registered apprenticeship expansion? Dedicated registered apprenticeship staff. We have collaborative workforce development partner business outreach. We partner and we collaborate with the community college, the Kentucky Department of Ed, the Chamber of Commerce, the local workforce development area, and the community college system to make sure that the staff that are connecting with employers in Kentucky know about apprenticeship and have a good understanding of apprenticeship, so that we can best serve employers in the Commonwealth. We're also partnering with the Office of Apprenticeship Technical Assistance Contractors. If you recently recall, I believe 2 weeks ago, we issued a press release about partnering with Manhattan Strategy Group, whom is a federal contractor who has incentive funds to help employers either grow registered apprenticeship programs in the supply chain automation or expand their programs in supply chain automation. We are partnering with Manhattan Strategy Group and the supply chain automation to help our employers grow and expand registered apprenticeship programs. And they have incentive funds for employers from up to $40,000 to help them build and establish and grow their registered apprenticeship programs. We've done this type of partnership with cybersecurity, the trucking industry. So we will continue to continue that partnership and expansion of initiatives. We partner in the custom designed registered apprenticeship occupations. This goes back to the early childhood administrator director. We're currently working on a master school bus driver to address the school bus driver shortage, a vulcanizing or conveyor belt technician, or cable construction occupations. These are employers who have come to us and said, we need help in developing and designing a registered apprenticeship program. The office continually applies for registered apprenticeship grants, and we leverage workforce grants for registered apprenticeship. And we're also having standing meetings and quarterly collaborative meetings with sponsors and partners. I hold a monthly meeting supporting youth apprenticeship, and we meet monthly with our skilled trade partners to support their registered apprenticeship programs. That is the overview and summary of what we're doing in registered apprenticeship. I'll turn it back to you, Dr. Price.
Thank you, Michelle. So as you can see, a lot going on and efforts made to grow apprenticeship across the state. In addition to that, we wanted to highlight some bright spots that were identified by local and state leaders. And we've listed these by federally funded programs, state funded, and privately funded. And I think I may have missed saying that the Career Development Office is now a part of the Department of Workforce Development, which is a very, very important department and office for us. So we have the Kentucky Career Centers listed as hybrid as being a bright spot, because now we realize that due to the pandemic, that not only was it a benefit to provide services virtually to Kentuckians, but also going forward, this seems to be a preferred way to engage in workforce education and training. And so we are really excited about continuing to grow virtual support. We also have, and I'm not going to go through every single one, but just so you can know that some of these efforts are continuing to grow across the state. We have the Spot and Kentuckiana Builds in Louisville, and now there are plans to grow that program with Kentuckiana Builds, which is to help people to get certified to be in the construction industry. And of course, we all know there's a lot of construction happening across Kentucky. We also have the lifelong learner branch that we created in adult education, with a lot of baby boomers kind of exiting. We are really interested in helping support folks if they would like to explore a different career path but may need some support. And then when we look at the state-funded programs, of course, the governor's program, Everybody Counts, has been really successful, and that is a program that's focused on building college and career pathways. It was a guarantee to JCPS graduates that they can have 2 years free tuition or a job that is guaranteed from Kroger, UPS, Ford, and GE Appliances. And we really would love to grow that across the state. So we thank you for your support with the budget to continue to do that. And then we also want to highlight the Kentucky Talent Pipeline Management program that has been really successful and highlighted across the nation as best practice to really respond to the workforce opportunities that we have here in Kentucky. We also look at Code Kentucky, which started as Code Louisville and is now focused on providing the same kind of services and support for free education in the IT space in Northern Kentucky and Eastern Kentucky. Privately funded programs, we talk about public-private partnerships and really successful programs. Kentucky Fame, which is obviously has grown and is nationally recognized as well, to grow the advanced manufacturing pipeline. And then we also wanted to highlight that the UPS Transitional Learning Center is a best practice to really work with folks who have disabilities, and it's a really intentional effort to make sure that there's support within the company. So those are some bright spots that we wanted to highlight. We also have recommendations for improving existing programs. So fair chance employment, we are really trying to encourage employers to understand that hiring from those who have been justice involved is a hiring solution, and providing support for employers to understand the benefits that we offer, that the federal government offers through fair chance bonding, and also the WOTC program. With the high school equivalency pathway, we're looking at a third pathway, and we think that that could be helpful for the state of Kentucky, that is not just a diploma or GED, but that we have another way of trying to help people to get to that high school equivalency. Wraparound support funding is needed desperately. It's not just about getting a job and getting to the job. It's how do you get there? How are you supported while you're there? How is your family supported? We know that, the quality of your life comes into your work and the quality of your work. Employer design programs was also lifted up as another opportunity to really refocus how we do things and seeking information from the employers when we're building out training programs and education programs. And then when we look at the cradle to career pipeline and what we're really trying to do in this space, learner and employment record systems are helpful. These are digital platforms to be able to connect job seekers and employers but being able to provide a more comprehensive record of your skill set. So it's not just a resume, it's not just a cover letter. You're able to share a video, a pitch of who you are and what you do. These are things that we think could really help to grow. And then just a few recommendations for support, really investing in our youth, career exploration, career counselors in local high schools, more paid co-op opportunities for high school students and summer programs. And some may say, well, what do we mean by that? Because don't you have a lot of money that you get from federal government? Well, that comes with a lot of restrictions. So our local leaders are recommending that we have more state support to invest in those opportunities. We also have recommendations from the field for more job training scholarship funds, and a lot of those programs existed, and federal funding has kind of dried up for those programs as well. And then continued support is needed from the legislature to make sure we have the required general funds to match the federal dollars that we receive. And then the last recommendation, investing in workforce development technology, app development. And we just recently, the secretary of our cabinet, Secretary Link, and Michelle and I, we all had an opportunity to go down to Bowling Green and spoke with some leaders there that were very interested in app development that would allow folks to have more flexibility to participate in the workforce. There are apps that currently exist where if there's a need for a vacancy to be filled, that can be done in real time. And if someone is in a space where maybe mentally they're not ready to support on that day, they don't have to show up, and that's okay, because it's more of a kind of a pay for service when you are ready to work, if that makes any sense. So these are recommendations that we think will really be helpful. The last thing I want to say, we have $11.2 billion of investment that happened in the private sector last year. And with that kind of investment, we know we need to invest more in workforce development. So we are excited about your continued support. Thank you.
I'd like to just close and how you could help Registered Apprenticeship. Continue to spread the word. Please share Registered Apprenticeship or connect any inquiries you may receive. We brought you gift bags and remind you to Registered Apprenticeship is a solution for employers. If you didn't get one, I do apologize. I may have been short. Please let Crystal know, and she'll make sure that she'll get with me, and I'll make sure that you get one. So I thank you again for your continued support of the work that we're doing. That concludes our presentation.
Thank you. We do have a number of questions. I've got a request and then a couple of questions that I will lead off with. The first is, Commissioner Price, if we could get an organizational chart of the new cabinet, if you could provide that to staff, I would appreciate that. And then
Absolutely.
If that can be distributed to members of the committee and staff as well, I would appreciate that. So what I want to lead off with, as we've heard from the apprenticeship program in the past, and as I stated earlier, I like having you come and give these updates. And there's a lot of great things that I see coming with this program. For example, we're seeing a significant increase in the minority participation, up from 8% to 25%. One of the things that does concern me, though, is we're seeing a drop in the occupations. You're telling us today 216 occupations. I believe last year that number was 585. Can you address why we've seen such a significant decline in the number of occupations?
I can answer that question. We are currently doing a registered approach. I don't want to say cleanup. The decline is we are addressing programs that registered and did not have any apprentices. So operationally, a lot of that decline is employers who started in a program and just couldn't finish or weren't ready yet. So that adjustment in number of occupations is program maintenance, and we are. I reached out to every employer on the sponsor list, and we're just not ready to have a program at this time. So their program was either canceled or postponed at this time. So that could explain the number of occupations.
Okay, follow up on that. Can you provide us with those career fields? I'd like to see if there's
Sure.
there's a pattern.
Yep.
If we have a segment of the workforce, employers out there that they're not prepared for it, some things that we might do on our end.
Sure.
The second question, before I get to other members, I frequently am asked to speak to various groups about our workforce participation problems in the state, how we encourage specifically young people to look toward future careers. And as we see here, we do have some well-paying jobs that fall under the apprenticeship program. And recently I had a discussion where in the past we've talked about reaching out to high school students and getting them involved and kind of in tune with what careers may be available. I think we're going to have to lower that target group to middle school and begin getting middle schoolers looking at what are potential careers and occupations out there. And so can you enlighten us on what you're doing to work with employers to get them to reach out to even middle school or any school group, but specifically the middle school program, middle school ages, to begin looking at these apprenticeships, and not necessarily focused on a 4-year college degree, but a trade or occupation that would fall under this program.
Do you want me?
You can start. You can kick it off.
Sure,
Go ahead.
sure. Representative Weber, I'd like to answer your question on this. So what are we doing? Is the administration has empowered the Office of Employer and Apprenticeship Services for a new website design. We have been working with a brand new website, which the goal is to have it launched this fall, KY Works at ky.gov, which will have dedicated registered apprenticeship and career interest opportunity information with videos regarding occupations. So reaching out and educating employers and the workforce of what career options are available. So that is one strategy. We're working on that. And then, of course, the administration is working. We're always working on the dedicated staff to speak to schools, provide presentations and information.
And I'd like to add to that. Thank you, Michelle. We also are looking at virtual tours. This past year, we've hosted some virtual tours with the Kentucky Chamber Foundation. And what that means is really the employers are sharing what the job looks like in real time. And that happens in the classroom. So the teachers sign up for these sessions, and their classes are able to engage with employers to get a better idea of what the field looks like. We did this with Everybody Counts, and we got a lot of good feedback from that. So I think that's one way. Another way is a lot of the companies that are now looking to find a home here in Kentucky are interested in building the pipeline for the future. And so they have backtracked not just from middle school, but even elementary. So we've been talking about innovative ways, virtual reality, to engage young learners and get them excited about career fields.
And I would say another focus group in that should be parents as well, engaging them in that process.
Absolutely.
We've all been young people. We know. We delay and procrastinate. First question, Representative King.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A brief comment and a brief question, if I may. Thank you. Thank you very much. At our, I believe, June meeting in Northern Kentucky, we received wonderful PowerPoint slides about the skilled trades and their estimates of job needs in certain categories by the year 2029. Just this week for a Mercer County Chamber of Commerce meeting, I printed out that slide and took it with me because we were visiting with Campbellsville University, the Harrodsburg site, in some skilled trade training that they have. And the folks there were so pleased to have that information. It's supporting the work that they are doing there. And as the chair mentioned, these 1 year out of completion wages are so encouraging. So I'm going to be taking this slide to my local chambers as well and the higher education folks that I have in each of the 3 counties. Is there anything else we can do as General Assembly members, maybe including in our radio broadcasts, newspaper updates? How else can we help you get this information out, as the chair mentioned, to middle school families and high school families? Just how can we help?
Absolutely. Do you have recommendations first?
Yeah, definitely connect them to suggest registered apprenticeship. The team will meet with individuals and will meet with employers individually, complete a needs assessment, and offer solutions for their workforce needs. So direct referral is key. And then when we launch our new website, if you could share our website with information about career education and outreach. So word of mouth is the greatest way to provide outreach and education. So if you could just continue to message, have you connected with the Education and Labor Cabinet? Have you connected with your Kentucky Career Center? We do so much more, and employer education is one of the biggest mountains I continue to try to climb. Practically every employer I speak, well, I didn't know that. I think employer education is key.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I would add to that the reach out efforts to families and to children, really sharing with them the pathways. I think to Mr. Chairman's point about how are we sharing this messaging with families? And a lot of folks may have come from old school where it's college, and that's the only way. And of course, we want to encourage post-secondary education, but there are lucrative pathways that are more along the lines of the apprenticeship model that we'd like to encourage and have people to understand that is something that they should consider.
Okay, so maybe a special emphasis on the employers that might qualify.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank
you,
you.
Mr. Chair.
Representative Callaway.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you all for the presentation. Appreciate the time that y'all have taken out to come speak with us today. I do have kind of a twofold question around the financial assistance that's provided to students. Could you touch a little bit on that and what type of financial assistance that they can receive? And the other part of that is how can we better connect our young people with this assistance so that they understand the help that would be provided should they go start looking at an apprenticeship type program?
Okay. Well, I will highlight. So one of the pathways for free tuition is through the Work Ready Kentucky Scholarship through KIA. And that is a guarantee for 2 years of free tuition, up to 60 credits, I believe, in order to get an associate's degree. So that is one way that is free, completely free. I referenced the Everybody Counts effort, and in JCPS, there's another opportunity through the Evolve 502 scholarship in which they can get 2 years free tuition in JCTC or Simmons College of Kentucky. And so with the Work Ready Kentucky Scholarship, that applies to any of the KCTCS institutions.
For registered apprenticeship, if you were not aware, Kentucky Educational Scholarship Funds, an apprentice who has Kentucky Educational Scholarship Funds participating in a registered apprenticeship program can request reimbursement. So their scholarship accounts can assist them in their registered apprenticeship opportunities. And if you look at KIA's website, it specifically addresses how students in a registered apprenticeship program can submit receipts of expenses for their registered apprenticeship for reimbursement.
One quick follow-up.
Sure.
Just to enlarge a little bit more on that, is there ways that we could better connect our young people, not just with the opportunities, but also with the understanding of the assistance that is out there?
Absolutely. I know that's one of the efforts that we're trying to move forward, specifically with Everybody Counts. We have our folks in the Kentucky Career Centers that are also trying to explore ways to connect better with youth. And some of that has to do with really splitting, and not to get into the weeds here, but the, in-school youth versus out-school youth and how much time they can dedicate, which is why one of the recommendations is to provide more support for career counselors in schools. I will say that our school counselors are drowning, and to provide more support directly, more people in the buildings to really provide those opportunities to connect with students one-on-one and share these opportunities is what we need.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Representative Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the presentation today. I would just say that I think programs like this and other programs that we have going are the future of Kentucky's workforce. And so I thank you for your efforts. I do have one comment and one question real quick. And my comment is that, I don't know if you're aware of this, but in Owensboro we have a pilot program working with the Pritchard Committee for Early Childhood Development. Just want to make sure if you haven't been in touch with them, because this obviously would coincide well. If you haven't contacted them, please do. Make sure we close that gap. And my question is, because I'm looking at early childhood development, and I see that we've got three new reps, three new ones for childhood development. Can you expand on what that path leads to? A little bit more about childhood programs, because I see that they're childhood developers. Do they become their own self-employed and use this as training for it, or do they get employed by somebody, or just expand on the program a little bit, if you would, please.
Sure, I'd be glad to. Thank you for the question. The Early Childhood Administrator Director's credential was developed. I'll quit saying we had a child development specialist registered apprenticeship program. So to create tiered or pathways in the childcare industry, this gives that workforce a goal, a pathway for advancing in their particular industry. And what registered apprenticeship does is it gives related technical instruction along with on-the-job training, the credentialing to expand in that industry. So if a child development specialist apprentice may want to go to a child teacher or director or administrator in their particular industry. So it's a pathway for expanding childcare in our state. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I think you did. One follow-up question, Mr. Chairman. Do you know how many apprentices we have in these new programs at this point?
I'd have to I'll have to get that information back to you, but I can tell you that.
If you would, please.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Huff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is, what is the cabinet and program doing to reach veterans who make up only 5% of apprentices?
Several initiatives in reaching or connecting with veterans. Through our collaborative business outreach, we've connected with Fort Campbell and Fort Knox, and just employer education and also educating the veteran services industry. I partner with veteran services routinely. We have staff who attend first formation here in Frankfort for those soldiers to know about those resources. So we are continually partnering in education and outreach to all of those serving all partners serving veterans.
All right, thank you.
Representative Bray.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for your presentation. One of the things we've been hearing about, and it's kind of across, about any committee you sat on, is we've got critical workforce shortages in a lot of different fields, especially healthcare. The Hospital Association testified yesterday that they're down 4,000 nurses. We've heard from the Kentucky Manufacturers Association, especially in dealing with advanced manufacturing. Are you all, is there any kind of push to fill apprenticeships in these critical shortage needs, high demand areas?
Yes, there is. We are educating our apprenticeship sponsors and also the workforce services in the untapped talent pools, veterans, all of those categories, minorities, those seeking their high school diploma. So we're educating employers to also consider those untapped talents.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Lawrence.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for your presentation. I have basically a comment and a request, if you will.
Sure.
My comment is I want to say that it's so encouraging to hear what your guys are doing, because throughout every committee you sit on and everywhere that you go, you hear about how poor the workforce here in Kentucky is. And I like to think that we are just starting to grow. We're moving in the right direction, and it's very encouraging, the presentation that you've given here today. letting folks know that there are so many options that we as a state, we as a legislator are doing and working, and that we are moving in the right direction. And so I really appreciate that, and so thank you for that. My request, if you will, the last couple of years, I know that since I've been elected, I've worked really hard on trying to work with folks with the KEYS money to allow them to go to trade schools. And I know that Senator Storm and I had filed a bill this year, and Senator Storm's Senate Bill 163 had that language in there that was going to allow students and even folks with felonies to be able to use some of those. I mean, there were some guardrails, if you will, in there for them to use money, but that bill was actually vetoed by the governor, which we were very disappointed in. But that was going to be a great bill. And so my request is, as we move forward into the next session, I would love to work with you guys and know that we have your support as we move forward to make sure that that bill goes through next year, and that we are not just talking about workforce development, but we're actually moving in the right direction and getting bills passed that are going to make real differences. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Representative Gentry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excuse me. And thank you guys for presenting this morning. And let me first say that I'm a big supporter of apprenticeship programs in general. And we've had workforce challenges here for several years, as I'm sure you know. And if you could go back on your slide before I get into my question to the employment outcomes in Kentucky 1 year out for apprenticeship programs. Yeah, they're great. Awesome. My question is, you know, I've been here since 2017, and we've been working on work, and I've sat on this committee since then as well. We've been working on workforce challenges all that time. You know, it was right after we created the Work Ready Scholarship Program, and we started growing apprenticeship programs across the state. So, but one of my concerns as a legislator is I've seen legislation passed since 2017 that I felt was, without a better terminology, a watering down of certification programs, and I was concerned about what that might do to wages as we grow, because it's such a rush to try to fill our needs, especially in the skilled trades programs. So my question is, if you go back to 2017, 18, 19, under median wage, I'm seeing a decline of actually over 10% from 17 to 19. So my first question is, do you want to comment on that at all? And I see there's no numbers for 2020, 2021. Do we know where we are going? This is a very alarming situation, and maybe this is an anomaly, but can you comment on that at all? And where are we now? You know, with inflationary pressures now, obviously wages are going up tremendously across the country just to keep up. And are we seeing a big difference in this trend, or comment on that if you would, please?
Well, I think, I mean, I would venture to say, and I know everybody's probably talking in my ear right now, but I would say that this would be a pull that we can maybe check with KY Stats to get more information on that, because some of this has to do with who the actual employers are, the sponsors, and the wages that they offer that fill into what that median looks like. So without pulling and distilling into, you know, getting more granular data, we wouldn't really be able to make a call on that. But I'm happy to look into it, and I think Michelle would be able to do that as well and get some information back to you.
Okay, I appreciate that. If you could share it with all the committee members too, that's something that's vitally important to us, I think. And you know, I've said all along, if we can put people to work in jobs every day, a lot of our social problems will go away. Mm-hmm. But we have to have programs that are pushing towards self-sustainability. And I think everybody wants that. Everybody needs that. We need to be able to increase our opportunities and get people doing that. Mm-hmm. But it's important that we have quality jobs, you know, a livable wage, a fair competitive benefits, and a graceful retirement opportunity. And that's what we all want. So anything you can do to educate us more on what those wage trends are doing, I would really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And to comment to and to respond to your comment of watering down the program, this is where dedicated registered apprenticeship staff comes in. Staff look at the Department of Labor documented standards for that occupation to make sure all of what that apprentice is learning is quality and the alignment between the related technical instruction. And also dedicated staff will look and monitor the program. Registered apprenticeship requires a program review where staff would meet with the employer, meet with the apprentice, review the program for quality maintenance. So we are completing those processes.
Representative Freeland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the presentation this morning. And you'd mentioned workforce development technology, like the app development. Are there other programs? I'd like to see if other states are doing things that Kentucky could be doing, programs that are already in place.
Absolutely. Statement question? Would you
Yes,
like
just
to?
a question, I guess, or just a
Yes.
statement.
Yes. So we are,
Whichever.
great statement for sure. Thank you for that. But yes, we are working with, we're part of the National Governors Association Skills Driven States Community of Practice, looking at that kind of development. And there are states that are using apps to support this kind of work. So we're looking to get more information about it and hopefully provide some information to you all to advocate for those platforms to be used.
Representative Kulkarni.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of questions, if I might. Thank you all for your presentation. This is a lot of really important information. I had a couple of questions pertaining to the employer side outreach. So we've talked a lot about getting people educated and informed about joining the apprenticeship programs. So I wanted to ask you, on average, what is the size of the employer that you're looking at in terms of the sponsors? And then the second question, you can answer in any order that makes sense to you, is what is the scope for implementing things like the Transitional Learning Center or care that Transitional Learning Center that UPS has? What is the scope of implementing a program like that or having something in-house with your cabinet that would train smaller employers that don't have the type of resources that UPS has but have a very strong interest in employing folks that have disabilities, as well as connecting them with fair chance employment workers? So both of those questions I think are fairly related. So if you don't mind answering.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I'll let Michelle
Sure.
take the first one.
I'll take the size. Registered apprenticeship is a model. It's a philosophy. And of course, I showed you the employers, larger employers who have a larger number of apprentices. But on the other end of the scale, I have a large number of employers who have one or two apprentices. For a registered apprenticeship program, you need one employer and one apprentice. So there's no limitation on size. Does that answer your question?
It does. And then you mentioned you just listed some of the larger employers. What is the smallest employer that you have as a sponsor?
I'm trying to remember Can I send you a list?
You can, yes, of course. I just
yeah.
wanted to understand, are we only gearing these programs towards larger sponsors because they may have more scope for guaranteed jobs, which makes sense. I just wanted to understand where we were in helping smaller, smaller size employers.
Yeah, I have as many number of employers, the top 20 with number of apprentices. I have the same number of employers with just one or two apprentices. So, yeah.
Yeah, and absolutely, you can
Sure.
send that later.
In regards to your question about the scope for support with people with disabilities and how to grow that. So it really does take, I think, more an employer to think through what they can do. And we are trying to do our part to uplift some of these employers that are doing just that, because a lot of it is industry specific. But really thinking through those ways that you can be more supportive. I was just talking with GE Appliances, some folks from GE Appliances, and thinking through, the fact that they wanted to start hiring more people from the immigrant populations, and what would that look like? How do we provide support? And that there's a need for translation services, and that there were employees within the company that could provide those translation services. So it's really more about that tactical approach from the employer's perspective, and then from our level, we're trying to uplift and provide that support so that other folks know that there are ways to respond and to grow the workforce.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner and Director, I want to thank you all for presenting today. We do have another presentation afterwards that we want to allow time for that, and any questions that may evolve from that. Again, thank you for your presentation. I think we had a good discussion today. We will be having you back at some future point, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
I'd like to ask our next presenters to come forward. Before they begin, Co-Chair Senator Schroeder has a comment.
Thank you, Chair Russell. I just wanted to go back to the minutes for a second. I meant to make this comment and forgot. There was a discussion last meeting on sustainable aviation fuel. Seth Cutter from Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky International Airport had sent us an update. There was a question at that meeting about the current price of jet fuel, and he had said that it was approximately $2.15 a gallon. He had sent us an email saying in May of 2022 was at an all-time high of $3.90. Thanks.
Thank you, Senator. At this time, we're going to hear an update from the Career and Technical Education programs. Commissioner Hargis, Director Slaughter, if you all will introduce yourselves for the record, and after you've done so, go ahead and begin your presentation.
Dr. Beth Hargis, Associate Commissioner within the Office of Career and Technical Education for the Department of Education.
Good morning, I'm Leslie Slaughter. I serve as the Executive Advisor to the Office of Career and Technical Education at the Kentucky Department of Education.
Are your all's microphones on?
I'm not sure. No, definitely not.
Okay.
Introductions again?
Yes.
Dr. Beth Hargis, Associate Commissioner within the Office of Career and Technical Education for the Kentucky Department of Education.
Good morning, Leslie Slaughter. I serve as the Executive Advisor to the Office of Career and Technical Education at the Kentucky Department of Education.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. Mrs. Slaughter and I are here to share updates on career and technical education for secondary students within the state, including improvements and future needs. So you can see in the first slide, this past year, 70% of Kentucky's high school students were enrolled in career and technical education pathways, and so that's over 140,000 of our students that were involved in that. Also, Kentucky's unique in our secondary CTE delivery system, but we did offer 3 different venues. We have state-operated area technology centers, district-operated local centers, and then 16 other CTE locations.
So we've talked a lot about the skilled pipeline, and we know that that begins in the K-12 system. And it's really important to us that as we build career pathways for our secondary students, that we're doing that in collaboration with our business and industry partners, as well as our post-secondary partners. So there is a concerted effort to ensure that the over 150 career pathways that we offer in our secondary program of study are aligned to the most in-demand careers and occupations and the top sectors of the workforce in Kentucky. And we ensure that those pathways not just include the technical courses and skills and competencies that are needed to best prepare for that occupation or sector, but that we also are intentional about aligning appropriate general education courses that are going to best prepare the student for that post-secondary path, whatever that may be, and we'll talk more about that in a moment. We also like to refer to the career pathway experience as a total package for a secondary student. And what we mean by that is that, again, not just through coursework, but through experiential learning and student leadership opportunities, they get to leave high school with experiences where they've had work-based learning opportunities, they've had the opportunity to be industry certified with aligned credentials and certifications. We do have a state end-of-program assessment model where students can take assessments that lead to articulated post-secondary credit in their particular pathway. Obviously, these pathways do embed a lot of dual credit as well, where that aligns, as well as advanced placement coursework when those opportunities align. We obviously cannot do this work without our partnerships with business and industry, and I think we take a lot of pride in what those systems look like for us. So we want to share with you a few examples of how we engage employers and business and industry leaders in our work. The first is through what we call our BEAT teams, or our business and education alignment teams. So each of our career and technical education program areas at the department have a BEAT team, and these are our industry leaders from across the Commonwealth that serve in that capacity. These groups meet a minimum of once annually, but oftentimes more than that. And their task is really to look at the skills, the knowledge, the competencies that are aligned to those pathways, to review the course sequences that are associated with those pathways, as well as the aligned industry credentials and certification opportunities. And then they make recommendations for any changes or amendments that might need to be made to those. They are also the groups that come together when we see new and emerging pathway opportunities that need to be created. So they are helping drive what those new pathways would look like. Additionally, we have a process that is actually defined in statute for how we approve our industry credentials for K-12 accountability on an annual basis. So the flow chart you see here articulates that process with our partnership with the Kentucky Workforce Innovation Board. So the KWIB does approve those on an annual basis, and it is a very productive and efficient grassroots process that actually starts with local WIBs and local employers, saying these are the credentials that are most in demand to these pathways and these occupations. And then there is a process by which the KWIB reviews those actually quarterly now. We used to just do that annually, but we created a more dynamic opportunity to review things as those opportunities change. Additionally, we have a great partnership with KY Stats. Cannot go on record not saying something positive about KY Stats, because I think I've learned through this work that we are blessed as a Commonwealth to have the longitudinal data system we have. And it is certainly not something that other states can say that they benefit from often. So we utilize their reports extensively in our continuous improvement efforts at the state level in terms of determining programs or pathways that need to be phased out or maybe kind of retooled, so to say. We also use those reports as we do continuous improvement efforts with local school districts in our area technology centers. So as we look at growing demand and need regionally, we help them understand their local labor market information, commuting patterns, all of the vital data that KY Stats provides us, those high school feedback reports, the CTE feedback reports. If you've not had a chance to browse those, I encourage you to go out to KY Stats and take a look at those, because they provide valuable information on how to ensure alignment to the state's workforce demands at a regional level. And then obviously we always keep our eye on new and emerging areas where we can scale and grow new opportunities for our K-12 students. So obviously we are a great partner in the work happening right now with Ford and thinking through what the skilled workforce needs to look like to really scale that project. Transportation, distribution, and logistics is an ever-evolving area for us. Energy, STEM, pre-med, and even education and training. And I cannot talk about education and training without plugging some work we're doing with the University of Louisville right now, and in partnership with the Office of Employer and Apprenticeship Services. We have a nationally recognized youth and apprenticeship model that is aligned to the work that you just heard about, and we are partnering with the University of Louisville to hopefully scale the first youth apprenticeship model to prepare an educator pipeline. So a very non-traditional way of thinking about how we recruit and grow future educators. In terms of our legislative priorities, we have been working on some funding reform efforts with members of the General Assembly since 2015. We had an in-depth report that was done on the secondary CTE system as far as funding analysis and needs. And there were really two things that came to light in that report in 2015 that have driven a lot of our efforts moving forward. The two things were really around adequacy of funding and then equitable distribution of the state dollars. So the first priority that we have been focused on, again, is adequacy, and I have to thank you as members of the General Assembly for the significant and historic investment that we saw in the biennial budget this year for career and technical education. We can say that we doubled our CTE investment. And I'll show you here in terms of the number of schools and locations that we can now say are reaping the reward of state funding. We have grown the number of CTE schools that were state funded from 96 to 316. And that is thanks to you. So we are incredibly grateful for that investment. It is something that our programs have been waiting patiently for a very long time. They have a lot of programmatic needs, and this funding will go a very long way in helping them to purchase necessary equipment, upgrade facilities, have an operational budget for supplies and other things that they need on a day-to-day basis. Moving forward, we will begin discussions with members of the General Assembly around how we want to move this funding to a more equitable formula. So right now we have separate allocations that are distributed in different ways depending on whether you are a state-operated center or you are a locally operated career and technical education school. And so we have a vision for blending those allocations in the future and coming up with a more equitable formula that would incentivize and recognize the implementation of high-quality programs of study. So we have some great ideas that we would like to work with you on over the course of the next 18 to 24 months to hopefully have a new codified funding formula by 2024 that can distribute these dollars in a more equitable way and also have some really important performance-based metrics that will ensure return on investment of those dollars. Lastly, we wanted to pitch a few of the strategic projects that we're working on that align beautifully with some of the conversation you all had with previous presenters. We do have a Kentucky Work-Based Learning Manual that helps and assists our secondary schools with implementation of work-based learning. And oftentimes when we talk about work-based learning, the first thing that comes to mind are paid experiences. A lot of people think of internships and co-op programs or registered apprenticeships, and those are vitally important. But we also talk about the work-based learning continuum. And this manual does a great job of helping schools, even in the upper elementary grades, begin to think about how that they can create a work-based learning continuum that starts with things like shadowing programs, mentoring programs, scaling school enterprises. We have programs in our schools that actually operate businesses. They provide retail services, or they do culinary and catering events, and the list could go on. But we really try hard to help our schools and districts understand that work-based learning isn't just a paid experience. It's something that can start very early in those upper elementary grades. We are doing a lot of work to this manual right now, and it will be going to the State Board of Education in a couple of weeks at their August regular meeting for amendments, and then will be ultimately coming to you as part of the Administrative Regulation Review Subcommittee for approval over the course of the next year. But we're really proud of this resource and building out a lot of additional infographics and pull and plug documents that our schools can utilize when they're partnering with employers or they're talking to students about these opportunities. We have utilized some of our ESSER federal relief funding to create a tri-sponsored project. So this sponsored project is in partnership with the Council on Post-Secondary Education, as well as KY Stats. And it doesn't have a name yet, although we will be branding it, but we're referring to it right now as the Statewide Comprehensive College and Career Advising Platform. So the idea behind this is to create a one-stop shop for all things college and career advising. And I want to be clear that the reason this is a tri-sponsored project is because it is not intended to just be for K-12 users. We are going to create a platform or a space where all learners across the education continuum can come to explore careers, find important reports and labor market information. So integrating all of KY Stats resources, program location information. So we've talked about, if I'm interested in a particular career, where can I go to pursue post-secondary education or training for that particular career? So having a way to articulate not what the path should be, but all of the paths that exist for training for that particular career is going to be really important, as well as integrating our registered apprenticeship programs and where those will provide opportunities. Post-secondary affordability resources, so this is where we will partner extensively with Kia to integrate all of their affordability resources around aid, scholarships, opportunities, et cetera. And then the part I'm most excited about is actually the last bullet here, which is the ability for the platform to serve as a space where employers can virtually engage with users. So we are having conversations with the Kentucky Chamber right now about the new Talent Hub platform that's been developed. If you're not familiar with that, it is, I guess, a Kentucky-esque version of a Monster or an Indeed.com. They're allowing Kentucky employers to create employer profiles and promote their brand and their opportunities for employment. We want to take that and really kind of put it on steroids and say, in addition to that, could you also be promoting work-based learning opportunities to K-12 students and post-secondary students? And could we even create a space where you could potentially engage with learners across the continuum through virtual mentoring, shadowing programs, maybe even some virtual internships? That the opportunities are really endless there. And we're really excited about what this platform will be able to do. Too often we hear from our school counselors, from college admissions counselors, our transition coordinators with adult ed, everyone across the continuum is really overwhelmed with how many resources exist out there. There are amazing resources out there, but they all live in separate places. So the intent of this project is to bring them into one seamless platform where they make sense and people can navigate all of those important tools in a way that is helpful for all learners. So that's the goal here. This project is it's knee-deep right now in development discussions. We've had several focus groups with all of our intended audiences and stakeholders. We've done several requirement sessions, and a programmer has been hired. So we're kind of ready to start the development of this, but we won't see the fruits of this labor until next fall. So 2023 is the launch date for this particular platform. And then lastly, we've talked a lot this morning about how we're ensuring that not just students, but parents and families know about these career and technical education opportunities. And so we have been focused for the last 2 years on a branding initiative. You see in the lower left-hand corner of the screen the new Kentucky CTE logo. It's Kentucky CTE Empowered, today's career and technical education. We've focused this work in 2 phases. The first was the logo and tagline development, which we're really proud of. And then we are now living out the second phase of this work, and will continue to for some time. We have radio and TV advertisements that are getting ready to come. We're super excited about that. We've developed a lot of print materials, pull and plug videos and resources for schools to be able to utilize, and we've targeted those videos by audience. So the message is the same, but kind of communicated differently, depending upon whether we're wanting to talk to parents or students or even employers or other educators. So we are building a social media campaign and beginning to tell what we are calling the empowered CTE stories, successful alumni or current students who can talk about the experiences they have in career and technical education and how that has impacted their trajectory and their career choice. And then we're working internally on some website work as well to reflect this new brand. So this is one concerted effort that we've placed a lot of attention on in terms of making sure that all of our audiences understand what 21st century career and technical education really is and what it's not. So with that, we would like to entertain any questions you may have.
Well, thank you. That was a very exciting presentation. And I think you hit the nail on the head with a number of things that I know members of this committee and other members in the General Assembly have seen, that we do have to be very proactive and take a different approach to reaching folks. We do have a problem on our hands on the workforce issue. It won't be solved overnight.
That's right.
But we do have to develop a strategy for dealing with it. I do have a question to ask you, and then I want to make a comment. You mentioned that there are 150 pathway options out there. Can you provide us with a list
Absolutely.
of all of those, and also the number of school districts?
Yep.
And I'd love to know the specific school districts. If they all offer it, then all 150, that would be great, but kind of a breakdown of that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's
And then I just want to comment about the advertising campaign. I don't know at what point you would be available to come back and show the commercials to us.
Sure.
And the promotional materials. But if you can get with staff and let us know at a time you would be available to do that, I'd certainly like to move you into the schedule, maybe not for a lengthy presentation, but just a preview of that. And then, there is so much available, as you mentioned, to young people and individuals in terms of careers, whether it's a 4-year college program or an apprenticeship program or a program through the career and technical program. There's a lot out there.
Right.
You've got your dual credits. I just came back from a conference in Atlanta, and the dual credit is huge. And I wish those things had been available when I was in high school.
Me too.
You talked about KY Stats and the information that's available there. At that same conference in Atlanta, Kentucky really was highlighted because most states don't have that information available to them, the tremendous resources. We have financial resources. And so I will ask that you keep us updated as to how things are progressing with the advertising campaign and the development campaign and how things are going with that.
Be glad to.
So it was very exciting. Thank you. We do have several questions.
Sure.
I want to begin with Representative Bray. He was first in the lineup. Representative Bray.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am always impressed with what you all do. My dad got a certification in high school I guess that was 50, 60 years ago, something like that. That led to his first job right out of high school and led to a career in manufacturing. I've always, like I said, appreciated what you all do, and I do think you play a huge part in the future of workforce development as we kind of get rid of the stigma of technical school and all of that going forward. I guess it was the spring before last, I was able to tour our ATC and kind of see all the programs they offered, and they've got some great stuff that leads into healthcare. You can graduate with a certification as a LPN, and then you're immediately lined up for a job, and then with the local hospital, and then they've got a pathway to get you, your RN, and so you can advance your career. So I guess my question is how many students graduate high school with some kind of credential through you all?
So we can get you the exact number. It is a good percentage. So they are held accountable federally for what we call technical skill attainment. So either through one of those industry recognized credentials or certifications or through the state's designed end of program assessment, they are demonstrating that technical skill competency. I don't have a percentage off the top of my head, but I'm happy to get you that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then can you also get us a list of what credentials we offer through through our schools?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And I will say, all of this is actually, some of it is available on our website as it is, but we will definitely get you the specifics for you.
Thank you all again.
Representative Truitt.
Thank you for the presentation. As an educator, this is something that I'm extremely passionate about. I spent 15 plus years in the high school algebra classroom trying to teach students, to solve quadratic functions, and me sitting there knowing that those students would be served much better in a mechanics classroom or a construction classroom or many other classrooms offered in the CTE program. So it really isn't a question, it's kind of a statement, I guess. But for me, probably the biggest obstacle that I see is high school graduation requirements. I've got some LRC staff working on some things right now, but I would love to work with you guys in some way of seeing if there was a way that we could change some of these high school graduation requirements to where offer a little more flexibility to where students could spend more time at an earlier age, maybe even drop it down to middle school, or freshmen. A lot of times in the vocational schools, those are reserved mostly for juniors and seniors. So it would be a great idea if we could work together in some way to give a little more flexibility to some of these graduation requirements Do you all agree with that?
Absolutely. And we heard from the last presentation too about moving this down to the middle school level. And truly, we would like to see it move down to the elementary level. It's one thing to take elementary students on a field trip to the fire department, but why not have that curriculum truly, ready and talking to them about the careers? Because we feel like once you get to high school, that decision should already be made. Now, we understand there are always going to be times when a student wants to change a career pathway, but still yet, the earlier that we can show them what's available as far as career opportunities and wages, that they can get, we feel like the better off we are. And so we are working within our office on the curriculum for middle school and partnering with them to get that into the lower areas. And really, we can take freshmen, and in fact, we do have some middle school students that are actually in career pathways. Of course, we have to be careful because of the different safety aspects. But for, say, a business class or even a family consumer science class, and there are others, but we can put those students into, get them started in middle school. And as long as the high school is willing to transcript it, they can go ahead and start that pathway.
Representative, I will also say I agree with you, and I think there are opportunities for thinking more innovatively about that flexibility that you speak of. There are a few districts that I would hold up as best practices that I do think are thinking innovatively about that and have some models that I don't mind to share with you. We can certainly talk offline about that, but I would love for you to see what a few districts are doing to think differently about grad requirements and pathway experiences. So.
And if I could also throw this in, one thing that we work on as well is teaching those academics through the lens of CTE. So it makes it much easier for the algebra teacher when those students can see the application to, say, carpentry. And so if we can get collaboration between our academic teachers and our CTE instructors, then it brings it to a whole new level of understanding.
Thank you.
Representative King.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, presenters. You must have been reading my mind when you drafted your coming soon slide. So that really got my attention. That's where my question will be focused. I'm thrilled to see that you had a bullet point on that slide talking about all learners. My question is, and I'm not sure, I think it's for you all, but it could be our first set of presenters. Is there a gap between the opportunities available if it's a high school student, or do they expire when they are growing into adulthood? If there are opportunities for a high school student upon graduation, how long are those available? I'm just thinking instantly of a couple of constituents at home with a combination of having been out in the workforce for a couple of years, all of the aspects of COVID hitting, and now the transitions and the different employment opportunities. I'm just thinking they may want to reconsider and maybe take you all up on your generous opportunities. Thank you.
Okay. Well, we do have seamless pathways that take them all the way through, post-secondary. But, at the secondary level, they're earning credentials and they have the opportunity to take those courses to complete that pathway. Now, some of those credentials will expire, but Leslie, I'll let you tag on to this. And
I think that depending upon where they're coming back into their education and training continuum, the supports might look a little different, like the resources that exist. We heard about some scholarship programs and things like that today that are targeted for certain types of learners or audiences, but I don't believe there's gaps in opportunity at all. I think it's a matter of taking that learner, again, wherever they're trying to re-enter or enter for the first time, that education and training journey, and figure out how to put them on the path to that high demand career. So, yeah. And that's really the exciting thing about the platform, is to help every learner navigate that in a way that is not overwhelming. Yeah.
Representative Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And actually, I have a couple of questions. If you'll indulge, I'll be very brief. Early in your presentation, you mentioned the CTE locations, and one of the categories was the 16 other. What are those?
Well, we do offer, we have career and technical educators within our DJJ facilities. And then we also have KCTCS opportunities as well.
Yeah, there are a small number of secondary students that are served by KCTCS campuses for programs that they may not have access to in their local district or their regional ATC. So those other locations are primarily some of the 16 KCTCS colleges or the DJJ facilities. Otherwise, we're talking about our state-operated regional centers or district high schools and centers.
Great, thank you for that. Next question, going to work-ready scholarships, the work-ready scholarship programs. Can you tell me what career tracks or what credits do they get for that during a 2-year period? And what I'm pointing at is I would hate to think that we've got 2 years of free college or free studies for general studies, or, you know, I'm not knocking English Lit, but we're looking for career paths.
Right.
Do these scholarships specifically go towards careers, or are they
do,
general
yes.
college credits?
So, so there is the Work Ready Scholarship program that you mentioned, and then that bleeds down into what we utilize as the Work Ready Dual Credit Scholarship program in the secondary space. So, in the post-secondary space for an adult learner, it's 2 years, and it is focused on the state's top 5 industry sectors. Now, there's been a lot of conversation about expanding that, and I think that is important conversation to have. But yes, it is strategically focused and narrowed on some of the most in-demand occupations and associate's degrees that are needed. So for us in the K-12 space, students can utilize up to 8 dual credit scholarships as part of that Work Ready scholarship program to start taking dual credit CTE coursework as early as 9th grade. So they get 2 per year, 8 total scholarships over the course of that pathway experience. And that's approved for any career pathway that we offer. And there is some assurance there that our pathways are aligned because, again, we are very strategically focused on phasing out programs of study that don't align to the state's most in-demand career opportunities. Those are very regularly reevaluated. So for our secondary students, the scholarship program has been a game changer and really puts them on a very accelerated path to degree completion. We actually have, in a few models, some students who are completing those associate's degrees before they graduate high school.
We actually see that in a couple of our schools in Owensboro. We're
Yes.
very excited about
Yes.
that. So I'm glad to hear that. I'm all for the expansion. I would just caution, make sure that we keep our focus on, you know, what's the primary purpose
Absolutely.
of that. So I appreciate that. And final question, if I may, Mr. Chairman. So going to programs for recruiting and training where we have employers being involved, such as in Owensboro, we have the GoFame program and a couple of other programs that I think are doing well, but we don't have as many in as we should. So how do we get the message across to employers the benefits of things like GoFame and those? What do we need to do that we're not doing so far to get them more involved?
Well, I would agree with some remarks from the previous presentation just about word of mouth. I think that is a start. I think for us, we have found that some of the most fruitful partnerships that have come with business and industry have come from just having business and industry liaisons within districts or even our own office. We have 2 dedicated staff that do nothing but business and industry engagement all day, every day. And so having an intermediary that can speak both education and workforce language, that's a real asset. To be able to facilitate conversation and see the win on all sides to these partnerships. So in the K-12 space, I think having people, intermediaries that can kind of facilitate those conversations has been really productive for us in our work.
I know that our local chamber has been a huge advocate of that,
Yes.
been very involved. I'm just looking for other avenues, other communication methods. So appreciate that. And if you have any ideas, let me know.
I will
Please.
also say some positive peer pressure sometimes. So we, a few years ago, we did like a regional road show and kind of went on across the state and did some employer engagement sessions with employers from every workforce sector in all of the WIB district areas. And we made sure to spotlight employers who were doing our registered apprenticeship programs or who were utilizing work-based learning as a strategy for recruitment into their opportunities. And so I think sometimes just seeing that others are doing those things and utilizing those strategies is often a way for them to talk colleague to colleague, peer to peer as well. So I think that it takes time and energy to do those kinds of things, but it's important work.
The benefits are there, though.
That's
aren't
right.
they?
Yeah.
Thank you much. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your indulgence.
And our final question, Representative Banta.
Thank you for this presentation. I love it. Couple questions. Are schools giving teachers time off to learn? Like, for example, Representative Truitt's algebra example, an algebra teacher to go learn how to teach, make it relevant. Are they giving that time in your experience?
I would like to see more of it, Representative Banta, but I will say that there is a growing model known as the Academies Model across the country, really, where they are, again, learning those general education concepts through the lens of those pathway experiences. And so in those cases, those gen ed teachers are required to do summer externships with industry partners that kind of align to their particular area of expertise. And they will tell you that those are life-changing experiences to be able to see and experience an industry that they knew nothing about, that their students are interested in pursuing, and it does impact their ability to contextually teach in a much more effective way, I believe. But again, that model is really the only place where I see intentionality right now in engaging general education teachers in more of that kind of professional learning model.
And you're not seeing a lot of it, just a few sporadic.
Pockets across the state. There are a few districts that are very focused. Obviously, Jefferson and Fayette are moving to what we call wall-to-wall academies. Most of their high schools are moving in that direction. And then we have a lot of regional academies and area technology centers that have that focus. But
it really depends on the district, and so that is something that we're working with, trying to develop those, increase those relationships, and to talk about things like that. As Leslie said, once they do it, it's life-changing, and they see the benefit of it, and then the teachers are requesting to do it. So again, it's getting that word out and making sure that they understand the benefits.
Maybe even changing the PD model so that they're
Correct.
available
Sure.
to do it.
Absolutely.
We put so much on teachers and without
Yes.
pay or time. I
Right.
just don't want to see anything like that.
Right.
And finally, when you talked about having, this is just a suggestion from a nobody, but when you talked about having those liaisons between the education and the business, it would be really cool for retired teachers.
yes.
That would be the group I would go to because of their vast experience. And anyway, I'm done. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Chairman.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Representative Beckler had a comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have a question, just a comment. I take a look at all the people who go to college for a particular degree, and shortly after they get out of college, they take a job that is far away from their degree field. And with that, it seems to me that you all have to be very, very careful about middle schoolers.
Yes.
A middle schooler can want to be a teacher one day, an astronaut the next day, and I really think you ought to take a relook at that, because I think we can end up pushing kids into fields that they don't want and are wasting money on middle schoolers when they're not going to go ahead and go through what they did.
Absolutely.
And we certainly understand your point and appreciate that, and that is something, of course, we're not tying the hands of the students. We know that they have the opportunity to change their minds, and of course, that's the worst thing that could happen, is for someone to get into a career that they don't enjoy. So we appreciate that and absolutely take that into consideration.
I think our approach more recently has been at the elementary age and stage. It's really about awareness, right? Just knowing what careers exist and what opportunities are out there. At the middle school age and stage, it's really about exploration. So beginning to learn a little bit more about what a day in the life of a particular career really looks like, but not necessarily technically preparing for that particular occupation. And then high school is where they do have that choice to begin what we call preparation, right? And that is not to say, to your point, that they will not change their mind or move into a completely different sector. I almost moved completely away from education. I changed my degree in college and then hopped back because I realized I'd made a mistake. And so that happens, right? That happens a lot. And so I think the one thing that I believe our pathways are also designed to do is integrate a lot of those transferable skills, right? So the essential employability skills that regardless of which workforce sector you go into are going to prepare you to be an effective and efficient employee are what are most important at the secondary level. And if the student does know what they want to pursue, giving them that opportunity again to have an accelerated path is really critical for them. But I agree with you, Representative Beckler. Thank you for the comment today.
Senator Thomas.
Dr. Hargis and Ms. Slaughter, okay. I just want to tell you, I could not agree with Representative Beckler more. I think he is right on point. Look, I am a strong believer that college is not for everyone. And we can certainly identify in high school those students, who really college is not their best pursuit. And we should move them into other pathways. I'm a complete believer in that. But to say we're going to drill down in an elementary school and start choosing on pathways, I just think it's ridiculous. Okay, I think he's absolutely right. Middle schoolers, elementary schoolers, they don't really know what they want to do. I can submit to you today that you got a lot of students in college who really don't know what they want to do and have a hard time deciding what they want to major in. That's the reality we have today. Yep. And so I agree with Representative Beckler 100% that is not a smart way to go, to say we're going to identify pathways for middle schoolers and elementary schoolers. High schoolers, absolutely, but not elementary schoolers and middle schoolers. I just want to, I agree with you 100%.
Thank you, Senator. And I do want to clarify, we're not talking about pathway experiences in elementary and middle school. We are talking about exploration and awareness of careers. So it's really a system that helps them determine their aptitudes, interests, skills, and abilities so that they can make informed decisions when they're ready. But I appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And on that note, we will get ready to adjourn here. I do have one item for other business. We will have the next meeting of the Interim Joint Committee on Economic Development and Workforce Investment will take place at the Kentucky State Fair on August the 25th, and we will be meeting at 3 p.m. Do I have any member that has